Hello and welcome to the Manistee Conservation District's Volunteer Stream Monitoring Program training video. I'm Chelsea Cooper, Conservation Technician here at the district, and I manage the water quality events and programs we facilitate within the surrounding counties. The Volunteer Stream Monitoring Program is one of our most important yearly events, and the data generated from this event builds upon itself every year and gives us a valuable baseline that we can continue to use as a comparison or to use to catch any emerging issues. This helps us to practice proactive water quality management as opposed to reactive management, which oftentimes can be after the damage has already been done. So your help with this event is so valuable to us and to the watershed, and we really appreciate your interest. Here is the outline of the Manistee River watershed boundary, highlighted in yellow. This includes both the Big and Little Manistee River systems, pointed out by the two arrows. Our 9 sites are critical tributaries to the overall Manistee River system and directly impact the quality of the rivers as a whole. So for those of you who have not participated in this program before, I'll briefly explain the overarching structure of the program and also where our data goes upon collection. After that, I'll explain how our events are set up on the day we meet and then transition over into the training portion of this video. This video was intended as a resource for the District's Stream Team Leaders program, but I also wanted it to be applicable to new volunteers joining us as well. If you are familiar with the program and have attended our events, please feel free to skip over into the training portion of the video and refresh yourself on the components that will be relevant to you. MyCorps, or Michigan Clean Water Corps, was created in 2003 through an executive order to assist EGLE in collecting and sharing water quality data for use in water resources management and protection programs. Now a foundational program under the umbrella of MyCorps, the VSMP, or Volunteer Stream Monitoring Program, is a cost-effective way for EGLE to increase the baseline data available for Michigan's waterways, as well as to establish a continuous data record for determining water quality trends within watersheds. Because of the effective quality assurance practices, this is a highly trusted dataset used for comparison across hundreds of Michigan streams and tributaries. This state program is where we source the funding to administer these community events. Here is a map to give a sense of the 9 stream sites that we collect data from on a biannual basis. These 9 sites are a collection of weightable portions of streams selected based on their direct contributions to the larger river system. The sites are located within the lower Manistee River watershed region and span the counties of Manistee, Mason, Lake, and Wexford. The Manistee River watershed is a regionally important Lake Michigan tributary that supports a nationally recognized fishery. Overall, the Manistee River watershed has a good water quality score according to our historical dataset, but is degraded in many portions due to human activity, such as sediment loading at road crossing locations, non-point source pollution, residential development, general sedimentation, bank erosion, potential oil and gas exploration, and recreational impacts. The presence of these threats make it vital to implement frequent monitoring within the watershed. The health of the Manistee River watershed is essential to the local economy and way of life for the residents in this region. In surveys conducted in 2015 by the Manistee Conservation District, local citizens overwhelmingly voted watershed protection as the most important conservation concern in Manistee County, and in 2016, we held our first volunteer collection event. Volunteer events are held biannually in the months of May and October. Our citizen scientist volunteers revisit these sites during sampling events to collect macroinvertebrate samples from designated 300-foot sections. Macroinvertebrate samples can be used to investigate environmental factors that negatively influence stream conditions. Benthic macroinvertebrates are spineless, sensitive organisms that can be seen with the naked eye and inhabit various stream and river habitats. Again, macro sampling occurs in the spring and fall, the fall sample being highly critical for comparison purposes to the typically abundant spring event. During the fall, local macro communities are exposed to potentially greater levels of stress during the low-flow summer months. The summer is also a concentrated season for increased recreation and development due to our temperate climate, adding to the importance of the fall event. 2 sampling events during the year are necessary to report an accurate portrayal of stream conditions, and our final reporting will reference both sample scores to interpolate numerical results. On event day, we meet here at the district office in Bear Lake, right next door to the Road Commission. Once everyone has arrived, I will give a brief overview of the day's activities, just as a refresher, and I also answer any questions at this time. After our discussion, teams will collect their Stream Team kits and head to their assigned locations. Maps and clear directions are included in the Stream kits, along with all of the event paperwork. Everything that you will need will be in the Stream kit, besides waders and D-nets, of course. Every Stream Team will have a leader, and our Stream Team leaders will assign each individual with a role at the stream. At this portion of the video, we will discuss the different roles volunteers will fill. We'll start with our Stream Team leader. There are 2 roles within teams that require some experience. Our Stream Team leaders are our volunteers who have attended events in the past and who have familiarized themselves with the procedures to be followed at each site to ensure sampling accuracy. The Stream Team leaders are responsible for filling out data sheets, watching and noting the time, and keeping the team organized. Total time spent at each site will generally be about 35 to 45 minutes of total sampling time per station. Of course, there is always flexibility on the timing. For example, we have some collectors who move slowly in the water, sometimes because of tricky wading or walking conditions. If sampling goes slow, sample longer than 45 minutes at your discretion. The goal is to keep the total effort the same across all of our sampling outings, so always make sure to spend at least 30 minutes sampling at each site, with someone in the water actively collecting for those 30 minutes. As mentioned previously, the Stream Team leader will also depend on a habitat collector. A collector is also a person who is experienced in this process and understands what types of habitats to sample within the stream, which we will cover in a moment. Of course, the duties of these 2 roles can be learned through watching tutorials such as this one, or using the MyCore YouTube account as a resource for training materials. A collector will be in waders out in the stream sampling habitat and typically relies on a runner to deliver their collection buckets to those in the stream bank. Which brings us to our next role, a collector's assistant. That's someone that you can also put into waders if enough are available, and they help the collector by carrying their collection buckets back and forth to the pickers who are picking out the macros from the collector's sample buckets. So that's a very useful role. It works best for the collector's assistant to follow the collector down the bank until the collector's bucket is full. Run the full bucket back to the pickers, dump the full bucket into their picking trays, and then bring an empty bucket back to the collector, and then complete this cycle until you have reached your allotted collection time. And this again brings us to our last and final role, the role of the picker. Pickers stand at the edge of the stream bank with their sorting trays set up on a small table that we provide. They spend their time at the stream waiting on buckets from the collector's assistant, and then they start picking out all of the moving things they see and sorting them into an ice tray. The pickers should work for about an hour in total, or until they have gone through all of the debris provided by the collector, whichever comes first. The team should set a timer or mark the start time in order to be accurate. The teams must strive to get at least 100 specimens. They are not expected to count it, but generally, they should have a good sense as they go if they are meeting that benchmark. The Water Quality Rating, or WQR, is designed to be most accurate with sample sizes of at least 100 specimens. Now we will get into the various habitats within the stream to be sampled, and we can begin with general sampling techniques. First, collecting should begin at the downstream end of the stream reach and work upstream, as noted earlier in this video. This is so we do not disturb any habitat before we have sampled it. Secondly, let's refer back to that data sheet, specifically the clams and crayfish portion. Do not attempt to collect any mussels or clams, as many mussels are endangered or threatened. Also, avoid taking them out of the water or dislodging them. Just make a note on the datasheet if they are found. Additionally, while crayfish are not endangered, they are too big usually to fit into sample jars. Also make a note of crayfish and release those as well. Remember, be aggressive when using your net. The animals are holding on tight to rocks and branches and leaves to avoid being carried downstream, and you want to shake them loose. As you're referencing the datasheet, you'll notice the habitats to be sampled are listed. First, you'll notice that we start with riffles and runs. Both riffles and runs are areas of faster moving water, and keep in mind that flow has a big impact on the types of animals that can live there. Runs and riffles will likely yield different animals, especially our more sensitive species who require more oxygen. To sample these, put your net on the bottom of the stream and hold the net handle upright. Use kicking and shuffling motions with your feet to dislodge rocks. You are trying to shake organisms off of rocks as well as kick up organisms that are hiding under the rocks. When you're in position to kick, it helps to turn and face downstream and point the opening of the net upstream so that the water is trapping things in your net. But again, always remember to be traveling upstream as you're moving through the 300-foot sample stretch. Next on our list are pools. Pools are quiet and calm areas of the stream. When you encounter a pool, scoop up some of the substrate into your net. Some low-oxygen macros burrow into the muck that collects here, so your net might start to get heavy with muck. Here's a tip. To clean the excess muck out of your net, keep the top of the net out of the water to avoid losing animals, but sway the net back and forth, massaging the bottom of the net with your hand to stir up any of the contents. When choosing a soft bottom area, try to find one that contains silt since it is far more productive habitat than just sand or muck. So in general, try to avoid oversampling muck. Not much will live here, and it is difficult to sort through for the pickers. Process 1 or 2 nets worth and then don't go back to this habitat. I will only briefly explain the rest of the habitats as they are quite self-explanatory. Undercut banks and overhanging vegetation. Jab the net into the undercut bank while pulling the net up. Move in a quick bottom-to-surface motion to scrape the macroinvertebrates from the roots. Do this several times. If you notice roots or overhanging vegetation, put the net under the bank at the base of the plants. Shake the vegetation using your net, trying to shake off the animals clinging to these plants. Feel free to use your hands if you are sure the plants are not poisonous. Submerged or emergent vegetation. Keeping the net opening pointed upstream, move the net through the vegetation, trying to shake the vegetation and catch any animals. Use your hands to agitate the vegetation and dislodge the animals into the net. Rocks and logs. Small logs and rocks can be pulled out of the water by hand to be inspected for macros, or you can scrape your net along the sides and bottom of the log. Be sure to check under the bark if feasible. There is usually a lot hiding there. As far as rocks, caddisfly homes often look like small piles of sticks, clumps of small gravel, or even tiny circular pieces of algae attached to rocks. You can use your hands to dislodge those from the rocks to add to your net. Leaf packs. Look for decomposing clumps of leaf detritus. A good leaf pack has dark brown to black skeletonized leaves. Slimy leaves are an indication that they are decaying. Scoop a few into your net and let the team pull them apart to look for animals. Sometimes a little water in the tray with the leaves will help dislodge anything hiding in the packs. When your site is finished, remember to clean the net and trays before leaving the site to avoid transporting animals or plants. There will be antibacterial wipes in your Stream Team kits to do this. Clean off any seeds, plant matter, mud, or debris from your boots to avoid spreading any unwanted aquatic hitchhikers. Your Stream Team leader will be in charge of getting your gear, samples, and paperwork back to the district. The week after our sampling event is usually when we identify the macros in our samples and score our streams, so contact the district if you'd like to help with this as well. The data collected by our volunteers is highly valuable, of course, but we also acknowledge the program's ability to educate and invest in the public and to help foster those important connections. We can share data with the public endlessly, but the change really happens when the public is offered an opportunity to have a personal connection with the data and the chance to dip their own nets into the beautiful stream locations that we visit every year, and allowing these experiences to be relevant to the larger goals of the program. This program is an example of the potential citizen science has to contribute to large-scale environmental improvement, and we are excited to see it grow and continue to connect with the local resident volunteers we admire so much. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you have any questions about the program or would like to know how to volunteer for our next event, please refer to the contact information below, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.